Hello, I'm Alex.
I'm James.
And I'm Dan.
We're the Ragamuffins, and this is episode 39 of the Ragamuffin Music Podcast. It's a place for us to talk about the music we love.
Today we'll be talking about reviews from While She Sleeps' new album. We've got songs. Why are you laughing?
Talking about reviews.
We're not actually reviewing the music. We're talking about reviews of the music.
Yeah. Reading Quran. Today we'll be reviewing new music from While She Sleeps with the latest album, Self Hell, as well as songs from Not Loose, The Plot in You, Kubla Khan, and more.
And later on, we'll be talking about some great bands that released albums that have not been so great.
Absolute stinkers. But first, let's talk about last episode's album recommendations. James, what did you recommend?
I recommended Busted with their self-titled debut album in healthy preparation for download.
A Present for Everyone was my Busted album.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But some bangers on this one as well.
Oh, classics.
They're the kind of songs that you can just hear in your head even as you just read the song titles.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because the song titles are often whatever's repeated the most in the chorus.
Yeah, very true.
But also, I mean, like, just this school disco classics here from year 3000. You Said No. What I Go to School For, absolute classic. Loser Kid as well. Sleeping with the Light On is the ballad of the album midway through.
Mm-hmm. I call it a classic.
Yeah, definitely.
Staple of British pop punk in a way.
Well, it's a weird one because
Where'd you class it?
they're a boy band,
Yeah.
but with guitars. Alex looks like he
Alex just
disagrees.
nodding.
No, I agree, yeah. This album's just a fucking classic. Yeah, you go through the track listing and it's brilliant. We don't need to talk about, the big singles, but stuff like Psycho Girl, it's a fun one. Dawson's Geek I like. They're brilliant live. I'm very jealous that I'm not coming to download, but saw them last year. You boys are going to have so much fun.
I just can't wait to see a load of like heavily tattooed metalheads in like black t-shirts singing along to these absolute jams. Disconnected to have.
I really think it's going to be like one of the rowdiest sets of the weekend.
Oh, I want to start pits.
Yeah.
I want to circle pit for year 3000, mate. So I'm very excited for that. And the thing is, they're such a pathway band. Like, personally for me, it was kind of, I traced it as like them, then Green Day, and then kind of finding bands through Guitar Hero 3, like Slipknot and that kind of thing, which was like where I'm at now. Listening to like Lorna Shore and the heavier shit that you can. But like without kind of having these bands at a young age, which kind of influence you slightly with music and you listen to, and I guess, like you say, with the kind of punk aspects you've got from it, you wouldn't find a lot of these other bands. It's a great pathway into that, and I think there's going to be so many people who are going to be nostalgic, along with myself in particular, seeing them at Download Festival, which is going to be surreal, to be honest. I am very excited. So yeah.
What about you guys? I remember getting home from school, putting news round on, and seeing the news that Busted had split up.
Yeah, I remember the graphic was like a picture of them, but it'd been like torn paper.
Yeah.
Split them apart. Yeah, I remember that as well.
Yeah, I remember they were doing like Vox Pops where they were just interviewing like children that were like in tears over Busted.
Good old news round.
Anyway,
Alex, what did you recommend last month?
I recommended The Hotelier, Home Like No Place There Is. I think that's how it's called. Yeah, something like that. What do you guys think?
Like No Place Is There.
Oh, yeah, close enough.
What an album.
Yeah.
I love it a lot. I mean, you recommended it because you hadn't got around to listening to it before.
I had not.
So, what did you think?
I think it's
that good.
Bloody brilliant. Like, it's just... I don't know, it feels like a snapshot in music that, like, I don't think would necessarily work nowadays. Like, just the way that the songs are crafted and the way that lyrics are crafted, it really feels like a really special moment that, like, I just don't think we'll ever get back. So when, like, for me, discovering something new from this time is really quite... It's like a little present. Because it's just like, yeah, I don't know. It was just like, you hear where all of the bands that have come after it have been influenced from when you hear stuff like this. Yeah. Like, you hear...
But also where they've been influenced by the bands that have come before as well. It's almost like they've taken what they've learned from, I don't know, bands like maybe American football
Yeah.
and then just expanded on things and like given to the next generation.
Yeah.
Saying that, it's not that old of an album, but
No, but I guess it maybe feels it. I don't know. It's weird. When was it? 2014. Yeah, it's not actually that old. But yeah, it still feels like a bit of a time capsule from an era that's been and gone. Very excited if we go to Outbreak to see it in full. I'll be there, screaming my little heart out.
It was not for me.
Fair enough.
alas.
It was not for me. There were kind of like small musical parts that I enjoyed for it, but there was nothing really, to be honest, throughout that gripped me at all and kind of would entertain me to kind of go back to it and have that motivation necessary to go back to it. Just not personally, I guess, my cup of tea, because I do prefer coffee.
Fair enough.
I think a big shout out to the opening track, to be fair, an introduction to the album.
Yeah.
Not only for being very aptly named, but for just building up, in my opinion, so perfectly and just sort of building to this. I mean, it literally is an introduction to the album. It kind of gives you a little preview of what the album's going to sound like. It kind of builds this crescendo as well. And then the whole album is just a brilliantly packaged 36 minutes and 16 seconds of grating emo.
Yeah.
I love it a lot.
And Dan, what did you recommend?
So I think we did quite well with recommendations this month because we all went for a band that we're excited to see. There are different festivals this summer. James has gone for Busted at Download. Alice has gone for the Hotelia at Outbreak. And I've gone for Manchester Orchestra with a Black Mile to the Surface because we're seeing them at Trees. Now this is one that I'm pretty sure it will be in Alex's wheelhouse. I think he'll be keen on this. But I'm going to pass to James first.
Unfortunately, similar to the Hotelier, this didn't really get anything through for me. I persevered through it, and again, like there's musical points throughout it where I was like, okay, that's interesting, and kind of breaking it down from that perspective. But it's not that. It didn't have again that thing that just kind of gripped me and was like, oh fuck, I enjoy that and can go back to that. I can appreciate it a hell of a lot, and I do always enjoy getting these different recommendations from you both because. Out of the three of us, I will be very honest and self-aware with the fact that my wheelhouse of music that I probably tend to go to is a lot more narrow. And I know that, and I like having the kind of expanded bit because every now and again there's something that kind of pops through, a bit like an Origami Angel, for example, that I wouldn't have necessarily gone to, that I'm like, oh, okay, cool, I like that, and it's decent. But yeah, this wasn't part of that grouping, unfortunately. But I enjoyed the challenge in a way to just kind of see what I thought of it and try and broaden the musical horizon slightly, but alas, my brain did not wish for that to happen.
I always like that when it's something that you're not that keen on, you always still like appreciate it from
I can appreciate
music from like a music theory point of view.
I can, because I think I end up breaking down music, I think, so much from like an instrumental perspective. I think just with like the musical background having and stuff like that. So it's kind of the same thing like when I see a band for the first time, I still always, being a drummer, I still watch a drummer first. It's just an instinctive thing. And so even if it's a band that I absolutely love, if it's Christ, Not Loose, which we'll talk about later, I'm still like listening to it and I'm breaking shit down as well as enjoying the song in its entirety. But I think anything I'll hear, I'll listen to it and I'll kind of think about it. I think a good example of that was possibly American Football at Trees last year, because you two being familiar with them and me not being familiar.
Yeah,
I think
Alex and I were just sort of enjoying ourselves, and
I'm there,
you were counting.
I'm like counting through time signatures, and I'm kind of like, it was good. I did enjoy that, but it was just kind of like listening to what they're doing throughout the song that makes it what it is. And I think with the kind of alternative scene in particular, going off a massive tangent, but it kind of relates to all of this. I think having these artists that, not a complete dig on like most pop music, but these artists who write and craft their own material and put the time and effort into it, and not necessarily having ghostwriters and all that kind of shit in the background, you can hear better in this kind of music where they put their heart into it and it's what they mean. And that's where I can appreciate that and know they've put their thoughts into what they're trying to make. Like I said, it's not necessarily going to resonate with me and I'm going to enjoy it and go back to it, but it's always something I can respect more, kind of coming from this kind of music, I guess. There's my breakdown. Alex.
I thought it was fantastic. This might be quite maybe a lazy comparison, but if you guys know me, so this might sort of contextualize how much I enjoyed it. This was like full band Bears Den for me.
I did think that. Yeah.
And Bears Den are one of my favourite bands of all time. So I just found it like really. Oh, I sound like such a wanker.
You
I
are.
just
but
found
okay.
it like really like quite profound. Like it was an album that I was just kind of like in awe of as I was listening to it. Particularly The Gold, which when you recommended it, I was like, I think I know a song by them. I don't know what it is. And that started.
It's the Phoebe Bridgers cover.
I think it was a Lewis Watson cover, actually.
Oh, really? Oh.
Maybe.
Because that's like Manchester Orchestra's most streamed
Right.
song, I think, on Spotify is the Phoebe Bridgers version of The Gold.
Oh, right. It is fantastic. Like I think it is the best song on the album, but I think it's also a really good signifier of what is so good about the album as a whole. I think like songs are crafted, the way that songs sort of like ebb and flow is really I don't even want to say well thought out, because it just seems really natural. Like everything that happens on this album I think feels really natural, and I think the lyrics are what take it to like that higher level. Like there's quite a lot of like brutal honesty. Like even the first two lines of The Gold, couldn't really love you anymore, you've become my ceiling, is like such a really brutally honest thing to sing to someone or say about someone. And I think like that openness across the whole album makes it for me like really easy to just like fall into it. It's like people always say that like the best music's written for an audience of one, and like the more specific and direct it gets, the wider it ends up casting. It's like a weird reverse psychology, and I felt that listening to this album. I'm really excited to see it at Trees. I think I'll probably get a little bit emotional, but yeah, no, really good. I'm gonna keep listening to it more.
I think as well, it's a relatively long album. It's like 40 something minutes, but it flies by.
Yeah.
It almost feels like it. We talk about albums that create this world around you, and this is an album that does that. It kind of sucks you in. It's almost telling a story throughout it.
Are they playing this in full or?
I don't think their build is playing this in full, but this is their most popular album.
Okay, no, fair enough. Yeah, I'll probably go into some of their other stuff then.
Their most recent EP is very good. I think it's just as good as this.
Nice. Happy days.
Woohoo! Well done, everyone.
Nice one, boys. Should we talk about some new music?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So first off, it is a bit of an older one at this point, but I think we just have to talk about it. Not Loose released Blinding Faith. Before I go into it from talking like a live perspective, because I'm the only one out of three of us that's seen it live as well.
I've seen it live.
I have seen it live. Hey, you both had the opportunity. What do you guys think?
This was a grower, actually. The first listen, I saw on Twitter, everyone was going mad. Not Loose, new song, it's amazing. And I listened to it and I was like, it's alright. And then after, it was by like the fifth listen, I was like, oh yeah, it's brilliant. I don't know, it was one of those ones that like, I think what I really respect about and applaud them for is that they've like blown up recently in like the last year, 2 years. And they've like, I think quite intentionally made like harder music to listen to. Like the easy thing for them could have been to make like a real just accessible hardcore song.
Yeah.
And I think they've like quite openly like challenged listeners, especially like new fans, with not only just this but the Upon Lost singles. I think, and that's
they're trying to gatekeep themselves.
well, maybe. But I think that's exciting that they can be like arguably the biggest band in hardcore, or at least their end of hardcore, and write still like really whatever they want, and like more challenging, more technical, more interesting music. Yeah, it's a banger. I think also that moment where the three vocals have that moment is like special. I saw it in the vlog and I imagine live it's ridiculous, but yeah, fantastic song. They're brilliant. They're just brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I don't know what else I can say about Knock Loose that hasn't already been said. They're they're almost like, while Turnstile are a bit quiet at the moment, and I know that Turnstile and Knock Loose are kind of, as Alex said, different ends of the hardcore spectrum, but for a while Turnstile were kind of championing the genre and taking it forward. Now it's, while they're quiet, Knock Loose have kind of taken the reins and just flying with it. They're making, like, getting heavier and heavier, more brutal, just again experimenting, doing whatever the fuck they want. My only question is, where do they go from here? This is the first single from the new album. Allegedly, there's another single dropping by the time you're hearing this now, so we'll already have an answer. But yeah, my worry is, like, they've released this, like, surely the next single can't be as good as this, can it? Or
It's not loose. I don't know what to expect. I think
exactly.
Those expectations are high, and I think I may have had the chance to do my first, like, impressions, did like a quick little reaction to it, and watching the music video for the first time, hearing it all at the first time. I think that's a great pairing, and it's something we've spoken about a little bit earlier this year. I think that the renaissance almost of music videos is starting to come around, which is amazing to see, and it just keeps coming with more and more and more, which compared to last year, I think we only had actually Knock Loose with the Upon Lost singles.
Yeah, they were about the only band that were doing great videos.
So now having all of this, plus like the Blinding Faith music video, that was a really cool pairing in particular, I think. Like you say, that bit where the three of them go back between each other, live, fucking slapped. You can tell everyone was building the anticipation for it. I tell you what, though, when the first part of the song hits and it went silent and then it came into it, everyone was just losing their shit straight away. It's been an instant classic live. Everyone was screaming along. The pits are incredible for it. One of my standout parts in the song is actually the drumming. I think there's a point when Paxson does, like, I want to say it's 8 bars of like a snare roll with different accents in the build up. I thought it was only going to be like 4 bars, but the double time it went over, it just felt the anticipation driving through. There's points when he's kind of flitting between different cymbal work. There's a ride point, which is really fucking cool. Yeah, all of it that kind of comes to culminate into what is this song. Very cleverly written. And I mean, we've had some great albums already this year. This is up there as by far one of my most anticipated.
There's a lot to look forward to this year.
It's only just over a month away. So, fuck yeah.
I just want to add as well, quick, because a lot of the attention of Knock Loose is obviously around, like, Brian and his vocals. I think Paxson is quietly, like, one of the best drummers in heavy music at the moment.
Consistently solid, like, very underrated.
Especially when you like consider the progression that he's had as a drummer since, like, Laugh Tracks. Like, some of the stuff he's doing on this, the Upon Lost singles and Fabric of Life.
He's a real driving
really
force
impressive,
behind everything. But no, absolutely incredible song. Very excited for more of them. And it seems like ever since that Coachella blow up last year as well, they're just continuously on an upwards trajectory. And they fucking deserve it.
I think because of this song and a few others as well that we've had already this year, I think we're going to need a new category for our awards at the end of the year, which will be Snare of the Year.
Snare of the Year. I like it.
I'll tell you what, the snare on this.
While in that moment as well, I also think, based on a lot of ones that we're getting, we should have a discussion potentially about album artwork of the year.
Yes,
for sure.
Why haven't we done that before?
Exactly. So I think at the minute, the way everyone is being very creative in what they're doing, alternative music is thriving.
Next up, we've got a new one from The Devil Wears Prada with Ritual. What do you guys think?
Well, let's get out of the way. It's a drum and bass song. But it's a great drum and bass song. I really like it.
Yeah.
There's again, their album Colour Decay, I think, was an underrated one in 2022. I think it was one of the albums of the year and seemed to kind of dip under the radar a bit and be underappreciated. But yeah, I really like the slight experimentation on this, like I said, with the drum and bass style beats at times. I liked the lyric on and on, like repetition. I'd like to think that it was deliberate because it's quite clever and a bit funny. But yeah, all in all, I really like that it's something a bit different. We're not seeing too much different stuff in the sort of metalcore alternative scene at the moment, so this is great. Gave me old school Crossfaith vibes, which makes me very pleased.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I liked it. I just need to get into them more, I think. they're one of those bands that you like. It almost becomes kind of like daunting how extensive their catalogue is. That you just think like, oh, I don't even know where to start.
I hadn't realised how long they'd actually been around for, really.
Yeah, but maybe Colour Decay is where to start. This was cool. This was a nice sort of, I guess, reintroduction because I haven't listened to them since I've heard like I said, the big bangers, which has been a hot minute.
I think this was my first listen to them, and so I was quite intrigued seeing them like supporting Landmarks later this year, and being a metalcore fan, I'd never delved into it, and so I found this quite enjoyable as like an entry point, to be honest. And like you say, Dan, kind of exciting in terms of like what they're mixing in with it. What's quite cool is there's a lot of metalcore / adjacent bands who are being very innovative in not being generic and trying to distance themselves and market themselves as something slightly different with a bit of an edge maybe, or something that's going to make them stand out in a fucking crowded scene. And so I think they've managed to do that in particular with this, and that's kind of got me excited. I want to delve into more of it off the back of this in particular, and do a bit of homework in the next kind of just over a month I've got. So I do welcome any suggestions in the comments of any Devil Wears Prada songs I should listen to, because yeah, I'm quite excited to see them. Very open to it. I think, like I say, I had a vast discography, so don't really know where to dip in, so please help me.
Next up, another metalcore band that are doing some cool stuff. The Plot and You released a song called Don't Look Away.
Now, you recommended them recently.
I did. We reviewed them on the last podcast.
I think it was, yeah, and very, very enjoyable. And then as soon as I saw this popped up as a new song, I was like, okay, let me play this immediately. And I love it. It's kind of like balls to the wall, in your face, heavy, absolutely amazing. And seeing that it's garnering quite a fair bit of attention, and for the large part of it, up until recently, I hadn't really seen the name thrown about. And so,
I mean, they're massive online, but it seems to mostly be across the pond.
Yeah, it hasn't really caught on over
they
here.
They don't seem to have nailed the UK yet. But
no. But maybe
hopefully people listening
it's coming, I think.
Will get on board.
Because I think this might be, if I remember correctly, the second single from a potential upcoming release, I believe. Right. And so obviously if they're cooking and we've got something in the works, based on kind of what I'm hearing, this has got me very excited, and almost not akin to Devil Wears Prada, but similarly like another band that I'm like, fuck, I need to start delving into more, especially after the recommendation you did and enjoying it. That God, there's so much fucking music out there I need to catch up and listen to, and it's a vast thing, and like we said, it can be daunting and overwhelming, but that's kind of, I think, the enjoyment of hearing these bands and finding music. Like, oh, I've got so many songs I can listen to now. But no, this was very enjoyable, very fun, like I say, energetic as shit, and definitely kind of helped me wake up in the morning because I had to get ready for work. So yeah, very enjoyable.
I think what I'm really loving about this band at the moment is just how consistently great the music they put out is. Every song just seems to be a banger, and everyone just seems to love. So really, this song is no exception. It's exactly what I expected from them. I think my favourite thing about it, if I have to pick one thing, is the vocal delivery. Like, almost how he's almost a bit breathless and like gasping at times for air. Not only shows that he's just getting every like ounce of oxygen into delivering the vocals, but also that it sort of carries the lyrical content through as well, and adds that extra bit of kind of emotion and desperation.
Very strong,
which I really think is very cool.
Next up then, we've got Soft Play with Mirror Muscles.
Well, I love it. I think this is everything that Soft Play are about.
Yeah.
It's riffy, gritty, tongue-in-cheek. It reminds me a lot of their Shutdown cover as well. I think it's really funny. I think the riff's great. I think it's just brilliant. This is everything Soft Play are about. Yeah. And I'm so here for it.
Yeah, you've absolutely encapsulated everything that I feel about this song. What's kind of mad is like, it obviously is a very tongue-in-cheek like reflection on like gym culture, yet simultaneously has become a lot of people's like workout anthem, which I think again is like, I think that's like purely intentional, is for them to be like this thing is ridiculous, but we're kind of involved too. It's the same with like Punk's Dead. Like that was a really, really great punk song, and the whole thing was just a tongue in cheek, like fuck you to the people that had issues with them. I think I think they're really good at like holding up a mirror to everyone, but also kind of going, oh, but we're also flawed as well.
Yeah,
I think that's
definitely.
yeah. I think it's really fun. I really like it. And I think it's also quite cool that this is like a reimagining of a song that Isaac did in his Baby Dave project, which was what he did during their like
And
unofficial. Did they announce a hiatus, or they just kind of just?
yeah, they
just
went
kind
on
of
hiatus and then
Yeah.
both kind of did their own thing for a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think going back to listen to that Baby Dave version, you can hear where Laurie's missing from it.
Yeah.
Like almost like it's a much more stripped back, like chilled out version.
Mm.
Whereas this has got the punchiness of the guitar and stuff with it, and with that, it seems to bring Isaac's vocal out as well.
Yeah, it's almost like this is the fully realised version that just couldn't be done at the time when he originally wrote it.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it. I really like it. Next up, we got Kubla Khan with Low Tech. They said that they wanted this to be a meat and potatoes mosher song. And I would say mission successful. It's just fucking sick. What I like on this one is how much Matt and Eric's vocals are like sort of there's so much back and forth, and I feel like that's something that's been like a growing part of their sound is Eric's vocals have gone from like backing to secondary, which I think is fun. I'd love to see it live. I'm just happy for them. Like they've been like grinding away for so long, and now if you look at online videos of like some of their live shows, people are going buck wild, and like, it makes me happy. And so does this song.
A couple of things that I really like about this song is, firstly, how at the start the drums don't come in immediately, and it kind of almost gives the guitar and the vocal that chance to kind of lure you in before the drums come in and sort of take you away. And another use of the drums as well, there's a bit where the drums are just isolated on their own with nothing else playing towards sort of the middle, towards the end of the song, almost using it as a bridge, which I think is really, really cool. And like the simplicity of the song as well, it's all, I'm picturing like a DNA strand. Like there's the bit going down the middle is the dun 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 melody, and then everything else is just swirling around it and sort of being built around it.
Lovely image there.
Genetics.
Next up, we got the story so far, returning with Letterman. I'm going to be honest, I didn't vibe with it. I'm not the biggest story so far fan as much as you two, so it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts a bit more on this. But this was something that just, again, felt plateauy. Didn't really feel like it built to anything, personally. But I think have the connection to a lot of their music as much as you two do, where I think this has been a long time coming a little bit from my understanding, and so the payoff for all those kind of things could be a bit different. So what do you guys think?
You make a good point about it not really doing a lot, because to be honest, it doesn't bring anything particularly new to the table. I think, to be honest, I'm just grateful that the Story so far are making music again. Like this upcoming album is going to be their first album in 6 years. Which is just a silly amount of time, really, because they've still been active. They've just not really released anything. Yeah, but yeah, okay. This song is good. I really enjoy it. It's a vibe. It's far from their best, but I think it's nice. It's a good song, and I enjoy it a lot.
I really enjoy it.
I do just think that they should have been coming back with something sort of bigger, making some kind of statement.
I guess so, but to me it makes sense. Like, I think without saying it outwardly, I feel like if you want the Story so far to sound like they did 10 years ago, you just listen to it from 10 years, or go and listen to No Pressure. But I think they've like very much prepared people with the way that they went from what they were doing through to Proper Dose through to now. This was exactly what I was expecting it to be honest, and I really enjoy it. I think there's something to be said for a song that just, if it's done well, I think a song can just stay at a vibe and just carry it itself through. It's difficult. Not a lot of songs can do it well, but I think this one does, for me at least. It's one of those songs that once it starts, I'm just like in it, and then I just enjoy it all the way through. I don't need it to go super big. I still think it kind of goes quite big in the chorus. But yeah, I think it's nice. I think if you want them to sound how they used to sound, forget it. And you've got to either just get on board or get over it now.
Yeah.
And
like you say, it is pretty much exactly how you'd expect them to sound. Like, this is almost like somewhere between Proper Dose and the self-titled album, I think, sonically.
Yeah.
Which doesn't necessarily mean it's a step back. It's just they're kind of mixing those two sounds that they had to create this.
And I think musically, the world's kind of if people want them to write another Under Soil and Dirt, musically we're past it. I think it'd be the same as like trying to wish for Neck Deep to write another Life's Out to Get You. That moment in time's gone. So, what do you want them to do? Try and keep chasing that? I just don't think. I don't know.
Well, there's no point in doing the same album twice.
No.
So, why do it?
But I like it. I really like it.
Yeah, I do enjoy it.
And lastly, for the singles, we've got Magnetic by Wage War.
I've not really got anything to say about this one. Didn't really do anything for me.
So we were big Wage War fans, Ali.
We were.
Were.
With the older music.
Settle down.
With the older
I mean
music.
that in the sense that I haven't listened to like recent stuff that much, but I liked Blueprints a lot, and whatever the one that came after that.
Blueprints and
Deadweight.
Deadweight.
Yeah.
I found Pressure to be half decent with some songs, and I felt that Manic was a bit of a step up from Pressure, but still not anything that blew me out of the water. So there was kind of a harkening back to older Wage War that I wanted, and not gonna lie, when I saw that they had a song coming out, I was a little bit excited. Saw they had like premiere scheduled on YouTube, so I was like, okay, let me put it into my watch later. I want to catch it as soon as it comes out, set a reminder on, all that kind of shit. And so when it did premiere and it came on, I was just kind of disappointed. They've become a little bit of a radio fake metalcore band, might be the way of putting it.
Fucking hell.
But you look at what they used to do and what they used to produce out of it, there is a drastic change in sound. And I think like we will all champion for anyone in terms of bands can progress, write what you want to write, and we're going to talk about this way more in depth the rest of this episode. That doesn't mean we have to enjoy it in terms of what they're putting out. And like you said a minute ago with Story So Far, if you want to go listen to that album and listen to that sound, go and do that. And so that's why I'll go and listen to Deadweight, I'll go and listen to Blueprints. It grew on me the more I listened to it, ever so slightly, but it also made me bitterly disappointed that a band that I think could have become huge players and had incredible potential early on in their career have possibly maybe lost that. And I think they have a massive following in America, and I think they've become something which I laughed at when I saw it on Twitter. I don't know if you guys saw it. They've become a Sirius XM core band.
That's funny.
That it's just like it's going to be your standard radio metal from bands that have gone mostly from being fairly heavy to tamer. Even in some ways, like a Beartooth, they're a little bit in that kind of wheelhouse now.
Yeah.
A Bad Omens, potentially. You kind of have them class under that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like I say, write what you write, but
Radio core.
This left me sad and kind of just wishing for old Wage War. So,
well, just go and listen to it then.
And I will. But this leaves me now. I was like, okay, new single, new album coming out. I'm excited. Let me start spinning it again. And this just left me very unmotivated to go back and do that.
Fair enough. I really liked it. I thought it was a fun little number.
I'll give you one positive. I do like how Britton's vocals have developed, and now he has great variance between his cleans and his screams. Because that wasn't something they used to do. It was very much Britton does screams, Cody does cleans. But yeah, this wasn't what I wanted out of Wage. Right then, there's one album that we're reviewing right now. While She Sleeps released Self Hell. And so we kind of gone through the songs that they come out recently, and wasn't really landing on a lot of it. I think out of those singles, Down was my favourite. A lot of them just kind of didn't strike me as much as I was hoping from a band that I absolutely adore. And so there was a lot of anticipation and being unsure of what's coming out of this album. And I don't know where you guys land with it, but this hasn't really resonated that much. Yeah, the anticipation to this was low. And so going into it very reserved. I think I managed to get around to listening to it a lot later than like you guys potentially and some other people we know. And so that didn't really help. I tell you one thing, the album as a whole has slightly grown on me the more I have spent a bit of time with it. I think maybe slightly jarring initially getting to some of the songs and not enjoying it, and not maybe what I expected from Sleeps, but I think there are some standout songs on there that are better than the others. I think Rainbows was good. I did like the intro song. I think Down still is fantastic. And yeah, weirdly I found Self Hell quite catchy now, to be honest, and maybe stands out slightly more on its own in this collection of songs. Still, I don't rate this as a While She Sleeps album. I don't think it's anything near to their best release, which is probably Sleep Society. I would probably rate this... I don't know if this is going to be controversial. I'd probably rate this down towards the bottom. I don't know if it's a bottom as a collective album. I'm thinking through it all, and I'm thinking like each album, like early on, I think if I'm thinking, okay, this is the 6 Brainwashed, they each have some really great songs on it, but as a collective album, I don't think are like mind blowing. I think I'd probably put this maybe on par with This Is the 6 in maybe the bottom end of Sleeps.
I'm surprised.
I think with This Is the 6...
This Is the 6 is a cracking album.
I don't think it clicks as much for me start to finish. I think you've got the great songs on there like that. I think it's like, what's it, Seven Hills, Our Courage, This Is the 6. And then for me, if I'm going back to listen to the album, I'll listen to those 3 and I'll jump to Death Toll, which was a bonus track.
Mad. This Is the 6 is a great album.
I don't rate it as a Sleeps album. And same with Brainwashed. I'd go back and listen to that and probably listen to New World Torture through to Brainwashed. Maybe jump to... I'm trying to think of track listing.
You've got Brainwashed is my favourite While She Sleeps album.
Sleep Society, man. I think it's a lot better. Progression.
Oh, wow. We could sit here and argue about
We can argue about that. But I think
Anyway,
in terms of
this album.
It just doesn't give me what I wanted out of Sleeps.
You see, in the past, we've always said, hey, I think Architects are the main example of this. This band's done something a bit different. You may not like it, and that's fine, whatever. But I'm struggling to accept that with this album. I don't know if it's because Sleeps are a band that I hold so dear and are such a massive fan of, or whether it's because with that Architects album, I could see the good in it. In this, I've got no desire to revisit it. I've listened to it maybe 5 times to review it, and there's none of these songs are calling me back in. It's got moments for sure. I think, to be fair, this is a positive slap with a negative on it as well. Peace of Mind is a nice opener, but then it doesn't go anywhere. It just stops. There's literally like 3 seconds of silence before Leave Me Alone comes in, which instrumentally is a decent song, but it's just lyrically lacking. Let me go back to my notes. The first verse in that song, I'm all in on it, but then for a band that's usually really innovative lyrically, it's just so uninspiring. Like, sick of the bullshit, sick of the fakes, just stinks of like a "You okay, hun?" Facebook post. I'll inbox you. They go a bit Shikari with some of the electronics on the album as well, which is fine, but then they just keep doing it, and keep doing it, and it's like beating a dead horse by the end of the album. Rainbows, it's got moments that stand out. That's probably, in my opinion, the second best song on the album. My favourite being To the Flowers. Although, again, I don't think any of those songs make it onto any other While She Sleeps album. I just don't think they're good enough.
On that point, I do see this as a weird kind of Sleep Society B-sides. Like, these are extra songs that didn't make the cut. Because you can see where they're trying to transition. That newer sound they brought in with Sleep Society, they're trying to expand on that here, but it don't work. And so that's why I kind of see it as like these were the leftover ones that we're going to put into like an extra album, or could have been bonus tracks on something.
And yeah, I mean, I can accept that a lot of people will probably enjoy this album. In fact, I've read online a lot of people are enjoying it and can see things they like in it. But for me, it's just personally quite disappointing, because they're a band that usually are very innovative, and I mean, they have been experimental on this album, but in my opinion, it's just not really gelled. But hey ho, we'll get them next time.
I think two things for me about this cycle that have kind of been sticking in my head. One is, I do think to some degree we all kind of like talked ourselves out of it before it came out, which I get, like, that is kind of the whole point of releasing singles, is to build anticipation, and we weren't really vibing with them.
Yeah.
But I do worry that and maybe it's like there's a kind of like mutual blame in this, in the sense that the singles that came out weren't really pulling us in, but we weren't maybe keeping ourselves open enough to what it was going to be. So I think that has maybe coloured my opinion of it slightly. But also I think the thing that I like about Sleep so much is that every album has, like, I think, a real clear identity, and like sonically it has like a sound, and like quite a defining sound. And this is the first one where I feel like it sounds kind of directionless and a bit unsure of itself. Like, This Is the Six, brilliant, just straight up like 2010s metalcore. Brainwashed had like really massive choruses and a lot more melody. That was explored further on You Are We, and I think, and then you get into like So What, where like electronics kind of start to peek in, and I think lyrically that is like their best album. And then anyway, I don't need to talk about each one. But my point being is that every album has felt like it's really got a clear goal and like purpose, and this is the first time I felt a bit like the ends don't justify the means for this album to exist at the moment. I think personally,
I don't quite know who this album's for, like, other than themselves just trying to have a bit of fun and experiment, which is fair enough.
I think Down for me is the best song on the album, and I think the Malevolence feature on it makes it that much more appealing. But I think lyrically was what kind of where I was stumbling with this album, and like I think that some of the electronics, some of the lead lines, it was like, I don't know, there's only so much sonically I can like take of hearing triple whammies and insane stuff. Do you know what I mean? But
I think another thing, like off the back of seeing them at Ali Pali last year, I think we were hoping and looking towards like what was going to propel them forwards to become almost like the next Architects in a way. There's like the kind of clear pathway where they're like slightly behind following that trajectory. And I think there was that anticipation to see like, okay, let's watch one of our favourite bands that we've seen in fucking small clubs years ago in Birmingham and shit like that when we gone to watch them, to headlining Ali Pali, now going second stage in a massive slotted download, big production. They're really starting to get noticed and talked about, and to have that music of the next release propel them even more into the stratosphere of that. And I feel like it's kind of probably just keeps them at that plateau of where they got to after Ali Pali last year.
Yeah,
this hasn't done anything. I don't think it's a detriment too much, but I don't think it's done anything for them. It's just left them on that level playing field, and it's leaving me being like, okay, this has happened. They've put music out, and that's kind of about it, really.
Yeah, I think it it staggers their growth a little. I think this will slow the momentum, but I'm still on board.
I will always be on
We'll
board.
see what they do next. I'll
I-
still go to shows.
I will as well. I
I'll be seeing them
absolutely
at download.
adore this band. I love them to
Hell
bits. I cannot wait for that download set, and I want them to bring all that production from Ali Pali. Like I say, there's a couple of songs like I want to hear Down live. I would like to hear Rainbows live. I think we all kind of said after seeing South Hell live, it was a bit different and it translated, I think, better. At least personally, I felt it did. And so I think my relationship with the song has changed ever so slightly after seeing it at Ali Pali. However, yeah, I think I need to kind of, maybe more of it will click when we hear it live. I don't know. Maybe that's just willful thinking, but let them do what they want to do. I'm not going to like criticize them and go to them like some people are in comments saying it's shit or whatever. They make music. They can do what they want with it. You don't have to enjoy it, but they can also respect your opinions if it's not for you, because not all music is for everyone. And we shall talk about that a bit later on in our discussion, I think. Right, I got 6 albums for you coming up in the next month, and let me know what you're most hyped for. 6. We have got Alpha Wolf with Half Living Things. We have got Error with Cure. Linkin Park are releasing a Greatest Hits paper cuts with some extra songs. Nice. North Lane are bringing out an EP called Mirror's Edge. We have Aaron West and the Roaring Twenties in lieu of Flowers, and The Ghost Inside with Searching for Solace.
Nice. Big month. Wow.
A strong month, I think, for releases, to be honest.
Very strong.
What's the one you're looking out for most?
Well, Alex thinks, I of course love Aaron West and the Roaring Twenties, and it's the end of the story so far. So, whatever that means.
Is that what he said, is he?
It ends the trilogy, basically.
Okay.
No, it could be the end, but we don't know.
To be continued.
Either way, I'm excited to continue Aaron West's story.
I think the singles for the upcoming Alpha Wolf album have been some of the best songs of the year so far.
Fully agree.
So probably going to be fucking brilliant. North Lane's going to be interesting. Seeing them live, they supported Sleep Token last year, and it really got me into their new stuff quite a lot, because I was a fan of like old North Lane, but never really listened to a lot of the newer stuff. And seeing them live really got me into them, especially Obsidian. I thought that was actually quite a cool album, so I'll check that out. I think that'll be quite cool.
I think I'm quite looking forward to the Ghost Inside album. I think we've heard a few of the songs which we said have been a bit more purposeful after Aftermath, which some of it was good, some of it wasn't. But I've been anticipating this Alpha Wolf album for fucking ages. And like you said, Alex, the singles have been incredible. I'm expecting an album of the year contender. It's very, very high in terms of what I'm expecting out of them, I think. And I have a gut feeling they're going to deliver.
I have a good feeling about that one.
Very good. That's been the upcoming releases. Let us know in the comments down below what you're most excited for coming up soon. But meanwhile, we've been to some gigs recently.
We've had a contrast of gigs, to be fair. Little and large.
Little and large, yep.
Because first we had a large one at Alexandra Palace.
We did. Neck deep.
Big night for UK pop punk.
Incredible. If we start from the beginning, I couldn't make it there for Drain, as I was coming straight from work. So, Dan, let me know what I missed.
I'll tell you what, Drain were excellent. They, obviously they're a bit of like they're a hardcore band. They like started the set by immediately just getting everyone to getting the lighting guy to turn the house lights up. It was like, I want to see everybody. So almost like those floor shows you see in the US where they've got all the lights on throughout the whole show, no barrier, except it's in front of almost 10,000 people at Ali Pali. And yeah, I was really intrigued to see how the crowd would kind of respond to them, because obviously there's a bit of a crossover between pop punk and hardcore. But with Neck Deep being as popular as they were, I thought there may be quite a lot of fans in the crowd that were just sort of into the tamer side of pop punk. But everyone seemed up for it. The crowd were going mad. The band just... it's always great, I think, when a support band takes to the stage with like a nothing to lose attitude. Because let's be honest, a support band doesn't really have anything to lose. They can just go out there, prove a point, win some fans over, and they definitely did. Because the energy was unreal, and they just all seemed happy to be there.
Bang! Sad I missed it. I did get there, I think, a little bit after Knucklepuck started, and seen them a couple of times, and they've been good. However, to me, I found that the sound in there didn't really quite help for their performance, and I was left feeling quite disappointed actually watching them live.
Yeah, I was worried that being a fairly big Knucklepuck fan, not so much of the newer stuff, but I was worried that to neutral fans that were experiencing them for the first time, that because of the sound issues, because the performance as well, I don't know if it's because of the sound issues, but felt a bit sort of lacking energy and not quite as like pumped up and out there as I've seen them in the past. But I spoke to a couple of our friends who hadn't even heard them before, and they said they enjoyed the set. So maybe we're overthinking it on that kind of side of things. But as someone that's a fan of theirs and has seen them a few times before, was pretty underwhelmed. The sound wasn't great. The thing that bugs me with them as well is they've got one of the most iconic pop punk albums of all time in Copacetic, and they rarely play that many songs from it. I think all we had from that album this time round was Untitled and Pretense. Maybe one other but I can't remember if there was for sure. But yeah, it was mostly stuff of Shapeshifter and the new album, which is a little disappointing. Fences thrown in there for good measure, so that was quite cool. But on the whole, their set felt a little bit lackluster for me.
Agreed. But then it was Neck Deep time. And I think I had a lot of anticipation for it after seeing Sleeps nail it last year at Ali Pali in what was one of the gigs of the year. Had a lot of hope in what was going to come through with it. And maybe in comparison, I was hoping maybe a bit too much on the production side. But what I think they did do, they absolutely fucking nailed. And I loved the screens they had from that side of it, that the changing parts of it. I thought it was so cool when, I can't remember which song it was, they had each album cover on there. And like that lineage, it really felt like a culmination of their history of a band so far. In just over 10 years, they've sold out Alexandra Palace, which is fucking incredible for a UK pop punk band. Absolute pioneers from over here for it. Set list, I think, was fantastic. New songs, which I was highly anticipating hearing live, were incredible.
I mean, I only realised a few days after that, when looking back at the set list, they played every song off of the new album, bar one.
Mm-hmm. It's a 24-song set list. And it just felt like song, but I didn't feel like it was too long or anything. I was loving it.
Yeah, it was a good length.
With the new song, starting off straight away with Dumbstruck, Dumbfuck and Sort Yourself Out, I think was incredible. We Need More Bricks was amazing. Heartbreak of the Century is fantastic. They all landed so fucking well.
I think it's a shame that Shut the Fuck Up isn't on the album.
Yeah,
because
that was fantastic.
That's a great song. It was amazing live.
That was absolutely amazing. Second time we've seen that.
Part of the encore, if I remember rightly.
No, it was before.
I don't remember rightly.
It was before.
Yeah.
I loved the inclusion of What Did You Expect? I was not expecting it.
They had to put one in there.
And that was absolutely incredible. Losing Teeth I Love. I could just keep naming songs, but to be honest, for the most part of it, it was a pretty perfect set list from what I'd expect of this kind of celebration.
Celebration's the right word for it.
It was truly incredible, and I hope this is the thing that catapults them to being like a mid-tier festival headliner, a slam dunk at 2,000 Trees. I think they could pull it off tremendously and be an attraction that actually shifts tickets. They deserve that. They have the catalogue. They have the performance with it. They'd fucking nail it. So it was amazing to see.
It'll have to be next year.
It will.
We'll see.
We'll have a vlog of this, which will be out fairly soon, I imagine. So if you were there, keep your eyes peeled, subscribe, and you can watch it.
Or if you weren't there, like Alex wasn't, you can live it through our eyes. And imagine you were.
Vicariously. A bit earlier on in the month, I went to go and see Not Loose.
Yes, you did.
I did. That was incredible. Christ, I think the best time I've seen them live in terms of set list. Songs were incredible. I think the Dome when we went last year, Alex, was better because of just the the arena of being in there with as a proper hardcore show, with obviously the kind of being right at the stage and stage diving. I think that was special, and I think even you could attest to that being special.
Yeah, the Dome is a very special venue. We're very lucky to have it in this country.
So I do love Kentish Town Forum. It was a lovely return for me after breaking my hand there 2 months ago. So no injuries, thank fuck. No, it was incredible. I found Headbuster were decent. I couldn't really delve into it properly, as I kind of said in the vlog part of it. Some people are bricks in a pit. Don't need to say more. Didn't really vibe with Death Heaven, if I'm honest. They didn't feel like they fit on the bill. It felt quite jarring.
Yeah, they're much more melodic than the other stuff there.
But like
to be fair, like we saw them at Outbreak a couple of years back as well, and they're a band that I really, really like, but
I don't get it live.
They don't quite do things for me live, I don't think.
But at the end of the day, Not Loose headliner, fucking killed it. And we all recently went to Oxford. We had a little trip together. Alex, your first gig.
We've had it all this month. We've had Ali Pali, the big one, Kentish Town, sort of in the middle, and then we've had the Bullingdon in Oxford, which is about 200 people.
Talk us through what we went to see, Ali.
We went to see Dream State on their Still Dreaming UK tour, supported by Graphic Nature, with 2 local supports. Love that. I think it's quite rare for us to get like a really good, really solid like lineup at an Oxford base.
To be honest, it's rare for us to get anything in Oxford.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're quite grateful to have anything, and we're very lucky that we had such a great lineup.
Yeah. It was really cool to see Aramea and Lastel, 2 sort of locally based bands, open in the night.
I was going to say locally sourced.
Locally sourced.
Locally sourced ingredients.
Great locally sourced metal. They were really good. I think there were some sound issues that, like, kind of had a dampener on the whole night. It sounded like the Work Experience kid was mixing it with his elbows.
And the Work Experience kid had their dog under the desk chewing a cable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not good. But I think, like, with that aside, like, the band still gave so much energy. Like, Lastel were just well-oiled machine.
Yeah,
weren't they?
Lastel,
Slick.
it feels like they've come back and they mean business.
Yeah.
They're going ham their new single online, promoting and marketing that. And, yeah, well-oiled machine live this time round. We've seen them a few times now, and this is the best. I think, sound issues aside, this is the best we've seen them, I think.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about Graphic Nature?
Yes. Main support. I mean, we've spoken highly enough of Graphic Nature on this podcast. Plenty. But they are just like one of my absolute favourite bands, particularly in the UK heavy scene at the moment. I don't think anyone does what they do, either on record or live. Like, it's notoriously difficult, we can all attest, to get an Oxford crowd moving. And they did it, so
effortlessly.
Yeah. Usually it takes, people are really like standoffish in Oxford, and it seemed like people were raring to go right from the jump with that set. And I think what really blew me away was like, the sound issues kind of left some of the vocals throughout the night lacking, and Harvey was just so like powerful that he just
almost didn't need the mic.
Yeah, he just completely cut through the room with his vocals. They're amazing. Yeah, they're really, really good. And a lot of the drum and bass stuff live, like, really goes as hard as like the metal stuff, to be honest. So yeah, they're fantastic. They were brilliant.
Something I've noticed about Graphic Nature, again, we've seen them live so many times now, but every time, like, they do that classic thing that the support band does of, put your hand up if you've heard of us before. Now put your hand up if this is the first time you've heard of us. And the amount of people that always have like their hand up and are like screaming and cheering when they're saying this is the first time. Like, I think Graphic Nature, every show we see them at, they're picking up new fans, and they're just gonna keep gaining new people, keep gaining all this momentum, and yeah, the possibilities are endless for them, I think.
I think we've said it before, and I don't think we need to keep saying it as being like the next big thing, because I think that kind of puts them down a knock of where they actually are.
But let's do it anyway.
They are a band that if you are not listening to Graphic Nature, you need to be listening to Graphic Nature. They're doing something innovative in this scene, and like I mentioned earlier, there's so many bands in a crowded scene that try and have a diverse sound and make themselves stand out, and these are a group of guys who are doing that and teasing new music, it seems. So
yeah, even though they told us that they couldn't confirm nor deny that, literally the very next day, there's a teaser.
So now
excellent. Thanks, Harvey.
If there's no better time than now to get on this hype train and follow it along and thoroughly enjoy their music. And then we got to headliner, Dream State. They put out their mini album earlier this year, which very much enjoyed myself. And I thought a lot of the songs off that newer album actually went really well. I found myself like kind of singing along to some of it. I thought Jesse is kind of defiant on the stage in terms of getting people moving, getting people into the show and kind of feeling like they're part of it.
It's almost like you fucking will move.
Yeah, you are part of this now. And to be honest, there's so many times we see artists where they could just be standing there singing. There's not much engagement with the crowd. And I think the times when you have artists that are engaging are the ones you remember more. Because you feel like you're part of the show there. You're not just there standing watching it. You want to feel active, as involved as possible. And I think she does that so incredibly well and very effortlessly.
Yeah.
It's a very easy thing. And I think, they kind of seem to be on this big push at the moment, playing a lot of festivals later on this year as well, which I'm excited to see them at. Like I say, I think the sound issues didn't help them as well as like with most of the bands on the bill. So I look forward to kind of seeing them again later this year with that kind of improved sound, because they deserve that. And to really kind of keep going full steam ahead with where they're going right now.
I think they did struggle a bit with, like we mentioned, getting the crowd to move in Oxford can sometimes be quite a task. And I don't think Dream State sort of encouraged them as easily as Graphic Nature managed to. But
it was second nature for Graphic Nature.
They did, yeah, you could say that. And he has said that. But they did the best, and they did get people moving.
Mm-hmm,
just probably not as much as they wanted to.
I'll tell you what, that room was packed.
It was full,
for pretty much the majority of the night as well. Which again, we've said, like Oxford is an interesting one.
It was like with As Everything Unfolds about a month ago. It was really good to see that full as well. So.
There's a little bit of hope at the minute.
And then we've got Boston Manor soon. That's going to be full.
There's a little bit of hope that this Oxford scene is starting to go.
I think there is literally a handful of tickets left as we speak. Probably gone by the time this goes out.
Shouldn't have upgraded to downstairs though, because that room sucks.
Yep.
But
hey, there's more people there now.
I know, less people.
But I think like it's quite positive to see that there's a bit more. There's a bit more of like a burgeoning scene coming through Oxford at the moment. Which means we don't have to travel as far and we can get back to bed nice and tucked in.
We'll be home by midnight.
Exactly.
Or if it's a 10 o'clock curfew on a Thursday night. Oh.
Incredible scenes.
Beautiful.
But yeah, that's what we saw this month. We've got some good ones, like you say, Boston Manor coming up soon.
And then festival season is right around the corner.
Excited. Well, the weather's not leaving
Terrifying.
me excited right now. The weather is leaving me a little bit nervous. So
I think we said this around this time last year as well. But that turned out okay.
We had a good. Oh no, trees, didn't
we? We got heat stroke at download.
Yep. Turned out okay.
Only had one day of rain at trees.
Yeah.
Turned out okay, but insert Alex being waterboarded.
Yeah. It was fine.
It was fine. I got waterboarded. It's fine. I'm now not going to download again, but it's fine.
So, in light of the While She Sleeps album, we thought we'd talk about some of our favourite bands, or not necessarily our favourite bands, but some great bands that have released some not so great albums. And the way we're titling this is great bands that release bad albums. But disclaimer, we don't necessarily think these are bad albums. Just maybe that some of them probably are bad albums. Alex is nodding. But they're just sort of subjectively, maybe comparatively not as good as the band should be putting out.
What a very well
thanks,
worded way of
I think I got straight to the point with that, and nobody is confused by what's going on here.
And nobody's going to get offended when we accidentally say that an
No,
album they like is not
of
very
course
good,
not.
or is not as good as others.
I think
We're all allowed opinions. We don't have to all like the same album. It's absolutely fine. But these are ones that we think didn't quite land really.
Yeah. I think let's kick off with another one that's fairly obvious and that the three of us are all going to be in agreement on. Neck Deep.
Say no more.
You don't even need to say which one. But we'll say it.
The
for
orange
listener.
one.
The orange one. All distortions are intentional. I think it was just... It just did nothing for me.
It put me off Neck Deep for a while.
It was
Yeah,
like
I'm with
it
you on
was
that.
like watching a boat with a bit of money on it just sail by, and you think to yourself, I could jump in and swim after that, but I'd rather just stay here and just watch it go by and go, and there it goes, and there it's gone.
They're having a good time over there.
Oh yeah,
but-
oh yeah, yeah. Oh sorry, yeah. Maybe not a boat, maybe like a
I'm
party
over
boat.
here. Yeah.
But you're already comfy in your pajamas, and you're like, oh, do you know what? I'm not gonna run out and swim after a party boat. I'm gonna just stay.
What are you on? Are you on like the door from the Titanic in your pajamas, or?
No,
Oh, I
I
won't go that
imagine
far.
myself. I'm on a dock. that
Look
I
at-
own.
what about a canal boat? You're on your little tug canal boat thing.
Yeah,
Kayak?
And you're just quite happy with it.
and then a party boat goes past, and I think, and they go, Alex, come aboard, and I go, no. I'll stay here.
That is one of the most Brent things you've ever done.
Also, astoundingly, we've not even talked about the music.
You know, we've gone straight to a metaphor.
So carried
and
away
you know
with this.
what? I'm not sold on this metaphor yet.
No, nor am I.
'Cause why are they
Well, I changed it. I changed it after.
Why are they partying?
Don't know.
Because they've made the music they want to make.
Yeah.
They're happy.
Okay, yeah.
But
and there's
we're
and then
not.
there's a few people that have joined them that are happy
Yeah.
with it, but
They're not us.
we'd rather
We'd rather stay on the dock in our pajamas.
No.
we're avoiding the panic and staying with the peace.
Some people on the internet will lead you to believe that this was the most innovative, iconic pop punk album of a generation.
Bullshit.
It's not even their best work, but you know,
It's not close to their best work,
no.
No, not at all.
in my opinion.
But then they bounce back with
Yeah,
a bloody brilliant one.
That's where we put a positive spin on this discussion topic, because it's a redemption arc.
I've got one more. You.
Go on.
It's one that I think the two of you will be completely ambivalent on, and it's pretty low hanging fruit, but we have to say it. Saint Anger.
I was gonna say, like, as someone that's not really a Metallica fan and not really clued up on their albums, I was sure that there was that one Metallica album that everyone seemed to hate, and it's that one. as well.
Everyone hates Saint Anger, mostly for
because
the
of the snare drum.
But also, if you watch the Some Kind of Monster DVD, which is like basically the making of that album, you really understand why it turned out the way it did. They went through Jason Newsted leaving. They completely changed how they approached writing an album. They went from it being like a well-oiled machine between James and Lars to like, I think they literally say in the DVD that we want to put the greatest band in the world and make them write like as if they were in a garage, like it was the first time they ever wrote together. And you learn real quick why that doesn't work for them. Obviously the snare and some of the production choices on that album are questionable. But yeah, we couldn't not say it. Saint Anger is poor. The thing is, it has a few decent songs on it, and I think if it was re-recorded or like remastered or remixed, whatever, and the snare was changed, people might be a bit more down with it. But
I've got 2 albums from one band.
bloody hell, who could it be? Who could it be?
Slipknot.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I think like there's 2 points with it, and I think one of them is going to be The Grey Chapter.
Mm-hmm.
I think overall as an album it was disappointing. There are a hell of a lot of songs I don't listen to, and it just didn't really click. I think I can run through maybe the first 4 from like intro, Psychiatry, AV, Devil and I, and then I'd probably skip to maybe Custer Negative One. As a collection of songs, this didn't land as an album. It was very, very disappointing.
That's what's crazy is that is an album of massive extremes, because I would say that like Custer, The Devil and I,
-1.
-1.
Are
I like.
bangers.
They're all. I would put all three of those in like all-time Slipknot top 10,
Mm-hmm.
which might be.
Potential.
That might actually be overshooting it a little bit.
I
but
really
Top
like.
20. Top 20. Let's.
I
do
really
it.
like this album.
You really like this
I
album
like this album a lot.
as a whole.
Fuck.
Wow,
One of my favourites.
interesting.
I would then
Explain
say.
yourself.
I just really like it.
Fair enough.
I think maybe because I wasn't like a day one Slipknot fan, I kind of got into them around this album cycle.
Oh, that's fair.
So
Yeah.
maybe it's just that this album was not necessarily my entry point, but around the time that I was getting into them a bit more.
To follow on from that, I really did enjoy We're Not Your Kind. I think as an album it flowed better. I think revisiting it much more time having passed, I think there are a lot of underrated songs on there. I think like Red Flag, Spiders, I love the fact they're kind of like messing around and really being diverse in what they're trying. Orphan's great. You look at like the big ones like Soulway Firth, Nero Forte, Unsainted. It is a much better return for me after that. But then we did have the end so far recently. I was looking forward to it with, I think the Chapeltown Rag was good. I think Hive Mind's really good. But I'm going to be honest, since it was released, I've not really gone back
Did the
and listened to
Chapeltown
it.
Rag make it? I thought that was a standalone single.
No, it was on that. I have not gone back and revisited this, I actually think, until it was released in 2022.
2022.
Yeah, I have had no
Good lord.
no kind of desire to be like, I want to go and listen to it. I will go back and listen to other albums. I was listening back to Iowa, which was my favourite album of all time recently. They have some great music in their discography. But for me, there's two albums there that left me bitterly disappointed from a band that, again, a bit like Sleeps, I absolutely adore.
I always felt like that last album was them getting out of the Roadrunner.
I think
Record
there is a
deal.
part to play
It's
in
like,
that.
let's just check out some stuff that
Yeah.
we don't really need to use and just get out of this record deal.
Mm-hmm. I do kind of agree with that to some degree, but I also think to put out a release, if that is the motive,
yeah,
and
but
that's
then also
the thing
you
with
should
it,
you should still have some self-respect.
you should,
and
yeah.
want
And
to
I
take
think
some fans with
to
you.
be like, you know what, fuck it, let's just write some songs and let's get out of the album deal. That is a disrespect to the fans, because people will buy that because you love them and that kind of thing, and that's taking advantage of them in my mind, to be honest. So yeah, wasn't happy with that.
I know that no band can kind of exist nowadays the way they used to, but the way that information about Slipknot is so accessible has, I think, been a massive contribution to their, I was about to say downfall, but their downward trajectory as of late, because I just think it's kind of like that peek behind the magician's curtain, innit? And it's suddenly you see that there's so much going on there
Breaking the magician's code.
that it kind of like just makes you think, oh God, it's all falling apart. Do you know what I mean? And then when that coupled with music that you don't really gel with, I think there have been quite a lot of like real diehard Slipknot fans who have like properly fallen off the wagon.
Hello.
So it's a shame. I've got one. Oh, go on.
No,
James.
go on, go.
I've got one that people said was a bad album, and I probably even at the time said it was a bad album, but I'm retracting that, and I'm about to come out in defence of it. Hail to the King by Avenged Sevenfold.
Yep.
Is actually a brilliant, pure metal album, or hard rock album, whatever you want to call it. I think you have to understand like the time and place that they were in. It was the first album without the Rev and following Nightmare, and also trying to follow Nightmare as an album
That's fucking difficult.
would have been so difficult. And also, each of their albums are really, really distinct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Metallica inspiration is obvious and sometimes crosses into borderline plagiarism. But if you're going to steal from anyone, you might as well steal from one of the best metal bands of all time. But I think it's just a really, really strong, solid album. And yeah, I want to go through a time warp and slap 15-year-old me for shitting all over it, because I like it now.
I don't know if this one technically counts, but do you remember when Bring Me the Horizon released that music to listen to?
Yeah, what a fucking
Album.
waste of everyone's time.
Like, yeah, again, I don't know if it even counts as an album, but what was that?
Don't know. What's mad more to me is that there are people that are like fiercely defending of that.
I've seen some
I
people
think-
on like Twitter
I
say
think
it's their best work.
There's some alright stuff on there, but no one's listening to that now. No one has listened to that album more than once. No chance.
No, I don't think so.
Maybe they've gone back and listened to a couple of the songs again, but no one has sat down and listened to that front to back more than once. There's no way.
Speaking of Bring Me, a lot of people would say Ammo.
Yep, I considered that.
I,
but
however,
I would
enjoyed
disagree.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that Ammo had to happen for them to get through to where we are now. Without Ammo being like that dip down into like
But
air quotes softer stuff.
do you only see that as a pathway to get to where we're at now and kind of view it in that aspect? Or do
No,
you
because
enjoy it as a release?
I enjoy it. It's not a great full album, but it's not a steaming pile of dog shit like some people would lead you to believe. Like there are some really good songs on there.
I've got one that I only stumbled across recently. I think I was going to say you could argue, but it's almost definite that Being as an Ocean's first two albums were like genre defining for like the melodic post-hardcore scene. You could even argue that their third album, the self-titled one,
It was good.
was on the same kind of wavelength. It was after that album that I think maybe that genre sort of lost its appeal and wasn't quite as at the top of the alternative scene as it was. So I didn't really hear their next album, Waiting for Morning to Come, but that's not the one that I have an issue with. They were playing at Burn It Down Festival last year, so I thought, I haven't listened to them in years. What are they doing? What have they been doing recently? In 2019, they released an album called Proxy, an Animo story. And I just don't know what it was meant to be, really. I don't know if you guys have listened to it at all, but
I've tried and
it's just
didn't get all the way through.
yeah, dubstep, electronic, with some spoken word lyrics. I don't really know what they were trying to achieve with that one. I mean, clearly it's meant to be a concept album, but just do it under a different artist name, surely.
Yeah. Just way too different. Yeah.
Yeah, we asked the Ragamuffin Club, didn't we?
Yeah, we did ask our Ragamuffin Club, which you can join via the description below. We've got a little community going on because sometimes we want to interact a bit better, and to have that kind of group is a bit easier. We can have a bit more back and forth, more conversation for stuff like this. So we've got Yaya Brian said, "A day to remember, you're welcome."
That was a very bad
Yeah,
one.
I remember that.
And also agrees with us about all distortions are intentional. He said it's the most obvious one that comes to mind, and although the more I listen, the more it grows on me, there are a few that genuinely landed first time. Telling stories, pushing daisies when you know. But I think, in agreement with us, just not a good album, really. Jareth said Panic at the Disco's final release was poor. On their final tour, they played it in full, and it didn't go well
It
within
was
the
a
crowd.
stinker. I think it was coupled by the fact that that tour was like the farewell tour,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't play that many of the hits.
No,
I say they, at that point,
it's
it was
basically
just Brendan.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And I've never really got into them as a band, but it's just kind of been from the outside, seeing like the slow demise, maybe is the right word, of like band members leaving and it just ending up by being him at the end of it. And just it kind of felt like it was falling apart and he was trying to hold it together at the seams. It's just my perspective. And then we also have our good friend Tyler, who said Avenged Sevenfold. And so this kind of brings back
the newest one.
newest one.
Yeah, that was
So
a
this
bit
kind
of
of
a
brings back actually, because
damp
for
squib.
me, I could say two. I would say the stage. I really didn't enjoy it, to be honest. I've never gone back and wanted to revisit it because I'm extremely unmotivated to delve into it again, to be honest. And I think after the wait to get new music from them and hearing about Life Is But a Dream, hearing the singles come out, immediately I was just disappointed.
I think that's the downfall of it, really, is
Yeah.
that it was billed as this big return and then wasn't that exciting.
I think for me then what it's came down to there is there's two back-to-back releases which just didn't land. And so, Christ, there was a time when you and me, Alex, would listen to so much Avenged Sevenfold, and it seems like an absolute lifetime ago now at this point. So, very sad. I'd look forward to seeing them at Download because it's still kind of a bucket list band for me to tick off because of my love for their older music and how much I enjoyed it. But I am extremely wary of the set list and probably not enjoying potentially 60 to 70% of it.
Oh, I've got one that's, again, not necessarily a bad album, but so you have an iconic pop punk band that disappears for a few years, doesn't release an album, releases an album in 2008, and then doesn't release a new one until 2013. They have this big comeback, and then they release a pop rock album called Save Rock and Roll.
Fall Out Boy.
And it's Fall Out Boy. Now, in hindsight, it's not necessarily a bad album. There's some pretty cracking songs on there, but I think it's just not what you're expecting. And I think that's probably the issue with a lot of these albums that we're labelling as bad, is that it's just a band that's done something just a bit too different and has just put a lot of people off. Apart from Neck Deep, that was a bad album.
On that note, let us know down below if there's any ones you think we've missed, if there's any like obvious ones we haven't talked about, or you think we're wrong on any of the opinions and stuff we've said. Let us know down below. We would like to hear your thoughts. And then also come and join the Ragamuffin Club so then we can actually hear your thoughts properly. And we will mention them on the poddy. New Rex time then.
Yes,
Ooh,
new
giddy.
Rex. I'm never prepared for this segment.
Good job, I pretty much always am, I think.
Hmm.
Another one in anticipation of download. It's an album we know. An album that I have been spinning a hell of a lot. Actually in the gym quite a fair bit as well. Very excited to see them at a really big spot compared to last year. It's Techno by Electric Callboy. I have been listening to this so fucking much. Watching live footage, getting really excited for that. And hadn't listened to it in a while. And going back to it, it was a really good reminder of actually how strong of an album this is, pretty much from start to finish. A lot of incredible songs, so many big ones that obviously were the singles. But I think there's actually some hidden gems amongst that as well that didn't quite make its way like Pump It or Hurricane did necessarily. So have a cheeky little revisit on that one.
There's a part of me that wants to recommend Devil Wears Prada because we mentioned it earlier, but I can't. If I don't recommend this album now, I'm probably going to forget it for the next like 3 or 4 months. This album's probably a bit more of like an alternative indie vibe, but it's got a bit of like emo stuff in there as well. This band's come out of nowhere for me and for a lot of people. They're called, I don't know if I'm getting the pronunciation right either, but they're called Freako. The album's called Where We've Been, Where We Go From Here, and it's just an album of the year contender that's come out of nowhere. I was recommended it by a work colleague, and yeah, it's just
Comparisons to anyone?
I don't really know, because it's quite a diverse album as well. There's some songs that like I say really go in, like not to like a James level of going in, but like yeah, it's just listen to it, man.
Unique.
I don't think James is going to like it, to be fair, but yeah, it's a very cool like alternative indie emo album, and it's only just over half an hour long.
Alex.
Nice.
I will say, I won't say which song, but there's a song on there which is going to be an absolute earworm for you as well.
Interesting. See if we can pick it out. Pick it out of the ear.
And then pick it out your ear.
Okay, I've panicked slightly and I've changed my mind about 3 times in the last 10 seconds. I'm going to recommend Darker Still by Parkway Drive. This came out in 2022, and at the time, I don't think I listened to it at all. I really like old Parkway Drive. I think Atlas and Deep Blue were brilliant albums. I got lost a bit on Aya, but then the parts of their set that I saw at Download last year, I think it was predominantly like newer stuff, and I enjoyed what I heard. So I figured, let's give that a try.
Right then, what we got on the channel? What's coming up?
Oh, loads of vlogs coming, James.
We have
All the gigs we mentioned in the episode.
more gigs to come.
More gigs to come.
Festival previews, because we're getting towards that kind of season.
I reckon so.
If you're at these festivals, you need a bit of help with which bands you want to see. We're going to tell you.
We've got games and challenges and other fun little goofy stuff. Just 3 guys having a good time, basically.
What more could you want?
What more could you want? If you want to join the conversation, get involved at the Ragamuffin Club on Facebook. The link's in the description. and
It's the best place to see what we're up to as well.
yes,
Little teasers and extra bits
teasers
in there that
and
you're not going to
behind
see
the
anywhere
scenes
else.
stuff and all sorts of fun. And if you see us at gigs and festivals, come and say hello. And that's about it.
Yeah. Like the video, subscribe as always, and come along for the ride.
If you listen on Spotify, you can subscribe there as well. Apparently that helps.
Apparently.
Apparently.
Don't know
Yeah.
much about that.
No, me neither, but I've heard that it helps. All the other podcasts on Spotify are saying that you should subscribe. So
Do it for us as well.